We are back, and this time we shall be discussing a special kind of configuration which is primarily a feedback kind of configuration, but instead of taking feedback from one place, we are going to take feedback from more than one place, means more than one measurement will be done, although the manipulated variable will still remain one. So this is the main characteristics of a cascade control, that you still have only one manipulated variable, but it has more than one measurement, and this measurement is from the process. This measurement is not that of disturbance. This is very important. We are not measuring the disturbance. We are not predicting the effect of disturbance. We are taking the measurement, but instead of taking one measurement, we are taking two measurements. Why do we go in for two measurements? To make the things happen faster. How it becomes faster, that is the concept of cascade control. So before we go in for the cascade control, what you are looking over here is a simple feedback system. You can see we are taking a feedback. Where the feedback is, let us see. The feedback is that you have a feed and that is being cooled, and it is some reaction going on. This is a stirring taking place, and this A is getting converted into B, and the heat is produced, which is to be removed, and the final products are going to go out from this point. And to keep the entire thing under check, means it's to be controlled at a given temperature, we make some coolant to flow through this jacket. This whole reactor, this whole tank as such is a jacketed one. So you have a coolant which is going in at a certain temperature, and the flow rate of this coolant is governed by the temperature over here. And what is happening is that we are measuring the temperature of inside of the tank. It's from inside of the tank, and the coolant is going out from here. We are not measuring the temperature of the coolant over here. It's quite possible that there may be some disturbance which may be acting on the coolant. The disturbance can come in the form of the coolant. The temperature of the coolant itself may become slightly higher or lower, so there may be some disturbance acting in the outer jacket, and the effect of that disturbance will also go on to the main process within the tank. Another kind of disturbance may be acting from the feed. The feed may be coming at the higher temperature, the feed may be coming at the lower temperature, and so on and so forth. So you see, you have two processes. This is the main process. This is the main process, that is the primary process, and you have a jacket, and the temperature of the jacket, etc., etc., are the secondary temperatures. You can see the temperature of secondary process, that is the TC, is also available, but it is not measured in normal feedback. We take only the temperature T, because if at all there is any disturbance happening on TC, that will ultimately affect after some time to the inner jacket, to the inner part of the jacket, that is to the main process tank, and ultimately the temperature over here will be measured, and it will be corrected by opening or closing the valve, which is going to regulate the flow rate. Obviously, if the temperature goes high, the rate of flow rate of coolant is increased. In case it goes low, then the coolant is slightly reduced to bring the T back to the set point. So this set point is the set point of the temperature which is inside the tank. Inside the tank, what is happening in the secondary process? Secondary process is what is happening in the outside jacket, is not directly measured, or we are not bothered about it at this stage. Let it act. Let there be disturbance, no problem. Let it act to the inside of the process. It will take some time. Let it disturb T. Ultimately, the disturbance over here, its effect is felt by the temperature over here, and that will be ultimately corrected. It may be bit late, and it may result in overshoots and so on and so forth, but this is what happens in case of simple feedback control, as we have already been doing it. So what is the way out? The way out is that we clearly distinguish what is the primary process. We clearly distinguish what is the secondary process, which is the outer loop and which is the inner loop, and so on and so forth, and try to take feedback from as many points as possible. Mind my word, we are taking feedback from as many possible sources as you can to identify whatsoever is the effect of disturbance. Again, mind my words, effect of the disturbance. We are not measuring disturbance, we are measuring the effect of the disturbance. But then we see that before the effect goes deep into the process, if it can be managed somehow before it goes, then we have to see that we will be going in for some secondary controls as such. And in such cases, when you have a primary control and a secondary control and you take feedback from as many points as possible to nullify the effect of some of the disturbances before they go deep into the process, before they affect the primary process. By the time they affect the secondary process, you take the measurement from the secondary process and nullify. So this kind of concept, as you shall be seeing in the next slide, is known as, this kind of strategy or this kind of philosophy is known as cascade control. Friends, here we are. As you can see, instead of taking the feedback from P alone, we are taking two feedbacks. We are taking one feedback as it was earlier, and this feedback will take care of any disturbance which is acting or entering from this point. But at the same time, we are also taking feedback from the outer jacket to take care of any disturbance which may be happening in the temperature of the coolant, so before the temperature, this temperature of the coolant is disturbed, and before its effect is transmitted to the deepermost, to the innermost, to the main process, I should not say inner or outer, to the main process, the secondary process, if it is disturbed, this disturbance should be taken care by yet another, this is another process control. So this is another process control, this is for the secondary control. This is earlier we were taking feedback from here, if you remember, and this feedback control was going to manipulate the wall directly. Now it is not so. We have yet another feedback coming from here, and because we have yet another feedback, this is an additional control. This control is called slave control. And what the slave control is doing, this slave control is taking care of any disturbance in temperature of the coolant which happens, and it corrects it by by changing the flow of the coolant over here. And as we see that any disturbance trying to enter from here, the moment it enters, the moment its effect is felt by the outer jacket, that is by the secondary control, by the secondary process, it's immediately nullified by the slave control. But what is the set point of slave control? If at all there is any disturbance, that will be taken care of the slave control. What if there is a disturbance acting from here? In case there is a disturbance acting from here, that disturbance will be nullified by the master, but the master is not going to control the flow rate of the coolant. Rather, master is going to give command to the slave to change the temperature of the coolant. And you already have slave over here. That slave was there to keep the coolant temperature constant. So whatsoever that constant at that constant maintained temperature, it can be raised or dropped depending upon what master gives the command. So you can say why it is called master. This is the second control, feedback control again, but it's called the master control. Why it is called master? Because the output of this controller becomes set point for the next controller. The output of this is not going directly to the control flow. It is just giving a command to the slave, to the secondary controller, to not just change the flow rate, but ultimately to change the temperature of the coolant, which was anywhere it was being taken care of to ward off any kind of external disturbance acting on the coolant on the jacket on the containing the coolant over here. So as you can see, master, which was earlier taking care of two disturbances, it was taking care of disturbance taking coming from this point. It was also taking care of disturbance coming from any point over here and entering into the cooling jacket. Now master is not taking care of anything entering on the cooling jacket, but this cooling jacket disturbance is taken care by the slave, and master only gives the command to the slave to change, to increase or decrease the temperature of this cooling jacket so as to take care of the disturbance which is acting from this feed. So now you see this slave, as you see, this slave has to be faster than master. This is the inner loop, you can call it. This is one of the loops. This is the inner loop, and its effect of the inner loop is felt on the outer loop or the primary loop, as we shall be seeing in the block diagram sometimes later. But right now we have to see that this dynamics is much faster, because any disturbance is first going to affect this point, and later after some time this effect is going to reach the inside. So this outer loop, as you can see, is slower, because any disturbance coming over here will first go there and then go there, so the dynamics becomes slow. But if you're going to take the feedback from here, again emphasis on the word feedback, if you take the feedback right from here and you try to nullify in this portion quickly, it means that this slave controller has a faster dynamics. It means that the slave is faster than master. The slave is faster than master. You can say the slave loop has to be faster than the master loop because the dynamics are fast. Now, once again, for the final time, what I've been telling you again and again, please do not confuse. This is not a feed forward control. Cascade control, we are taking two feedbacks instead of one feedback. Two feedbacks to take care of two different disturbances. Each disturbance over here is taken care by a feedback for dedicated for that in the form of a slave loop. You can have third slave loop and fourth slave loop and so on and so forth. Right now we are showing you only one master and one slave. This is the simplest possible configuration to give you the concept of the entire philosophy of cascade control. And what I'm trying to flash for the final time is that cascade control is not feed forward. It is not feed forward. Do not confuse, because many times people think that feed forward maybe to ऐसा ही होता है ना. It happens same in feed forward also. There also you are, but there, my dear friends, you are measuring the disturbance before it acts on the process. You are measuring the disturbance. Here we are not measuring the disturbance, we are measuring the effect of the disturbance. But instead of measuring it on the main process, we measure it on the secondary process and we mitigate there itself. This is a major difference between feed forward and the cascade control. And therefrom, I think once you have the concept, we will go in for some more examples of cascade control other than this CSTR. We will go in for the block diagrams. We will go in for what determines the stability and the dynamics and so on and so forth, one by one, in the subsequent slides. So my dear friends, as you can see, this is the simple cascade, simple feedback control. The simple feedback control again is made up of two processes. You have the main process, I call it as P process 1, and then you have another process, we call it as process 2, and this we will be calling it as later as the secondary process. This we call it as the primary process. But in this loop we have not distinguished between secondary and primary. We simply say this is process 1 and process 2, and you have two disturbances taking place. One disturbance may act on process 2, that in our case was the cooling jacket. Another disturbance may take place on process 1, the main process, that was the main tank inside. And both these disturbances, both the effect of process 2 happening on the disturbance is going to disturb not only process 2 but also process 1. But process 1 will not only be disturbed by D2, but it will also be disturbed by D1, and the collective effect of this disturbance D1 and this disturbance D2 is finally being taken in the form of a feedback from one point. This is feedback taking place from one point. It's a simple feedback control, and it's compared with the set point, and you have only one controller, and that one controller is to take care of both the disturbances this is the outer, this is, you can say, the first disturbance, and this is the second disturbance. This disturbance is ultimately, till it affects the process 1 and it's taken feedback, it is not controlled. This is the case of a simple feedback control. We want to make this process fast. We want that the moment this disturbance takes place over here, this disturbance should be taken care by yet another controller. So why not introduce a small controller here, which is going to, if you put a small controller over here, take a feedback from here, and you control it over here, then what's this effect is that any disturbance which is acting upon it will not be further transmitted to process 1. It will be taken care by the secondary loop, and the secondary controller will be calling it as the slave controller. And in that case, this primary loop coming from this and this controller will become master controller, and the output of master controller will become set point of the slave controller, as we shall be seeing in the next diagram, in the next slide. Here we are, as we said, that what we have done is we have taken the feedback from here, and we taking the feedback, we are going to add this to another secondary controller. This secondary controller, we call it as a slave controller, and this becomes the master controller. Now the effect is that we have this additional control over here. This disturbance D2 will not be passed on to process 1, because this will be taken care. The moment this disturbance acts upon the process 2, its effect is felt. So it's immediately taken care by feedback by the secondary controller. It's whatsoever was the set point for that, it's maintained, its loading is taken care of. So the secondary controller is working both in servo mode as well as in regulatory mode. It's taking case of D2, so it means it's acting as a regulatory controller. It's also behaving to follow the set point. The set point is given by the primary controller, then it means it's also acting upon in the form of a regulatory, in the form of a servo mode as well. So this is taken care of. This is the slave, this has to be faster. This dynamics of this is faster. We want to take care of this immediately before its effect is felt on process 1. And this is the effect that we have master and slave control. This is the basic block diagram of a cascade control, highlighting this thing that the disturbances acting within the secondary loop are corrected by the secondary control before, as you can read it here, they can affect the value of the primary controlled output. So that's how D2 is taken care by the slave and D1 is taken care by the master. The task is divided, so things become faster. As such, this is called cascade control. Another example of cascade control other than for CSTR, what we see over here is that under normal conditions, you have a distillation column and you want to control the temperature of the distillation column, and that is normally done, as you can see, this is the distillate coming out from here. It's in the form of vapor, it's condensed, it's collected over here, and part of it goes back as a reflux. So this flow rate is controlled, and this reflux primarily depends upon what is the temperature. So if there is any change in temperature, accordingly this reflux is increased or decreased. So the temperature control is directly connected to the flow wall under normal circumstances. But what we see that this flow rate may also get disturbance on account of some changes in pressure and flow rate and so on. We don't want those disturbances to act upon the temperature. So those changes in flow rate coming from the condenser, moving to this point, going back, they are measured and they are controlled separately by yet another controller. We call it a secondary controller. So this secondary controller, as you can see, this controller is the slave controller, and this controller is the master controller, as it's taking feedback from here and it's giving to the primary controller. Then the output of the primary controller becomes input or the set point for the secondary controller. So any disturbance happening over here will be taken care by the primary control. Any disturbance happening over here will be taken care by the secondary controller, the slave controller. Otherwise, the primary controller has to take care of both the disturbances. As you can see, same thing is happening in this form, and the same thing is going to happen in the next slide. Instead of taking the output from the distillate part, we will be considering the bottoms part of this distillation column, as you'll be seeing in the next slide. As said earlier, that what is happening in case of bottoms, some bottoms are given out in form of bottom products, but some of them are fed back, they are boiled, there again it goes to the reboiler, and then again they are fed back, and the purpose is to control the temperature of this part of the boiler of the distillation column. And again, if there is any disturbance happening over here, is taken care by this controller, and there is any amount of disturbance happening in the flow of the steam over here going to the reboiler, so that is taken care by this secondary controller. Same way, you have a secondary controller, you have a primary controller, where the output of the master becomes the set point for the secondary or the slave controller. So this is yet another example of cascade control. And likewise, you have, my dear friends, number of other examples of the cascade control, number of places you can have. So in all the cases, you say we are taking feedback not from one but for more than 1 points, but the manipulated variable, the valve, remains the same. Only the one manipulated variable is there. Only one manipulated variable is there. You can have more than one measurements taking place. This is the concept of cascade control. Let's go for little bit analysis of the dynamics, so that we can see that how you want to determine the stability of the system, how the dynamics, how the characteristic equations, they change the moment we introduce a secondary controller in the whole scheme. Let's see in the next slide. Friends, as we had seen, you have a secondary loop and a primary loop, and this time we have given some notations to the loops over here. So we start with the primary process. We have the transfer function gp1. We are taking its feedback, and most of the things like g, m, etc. are supposed to be 1 as usual. And this is the transfer function of the primary controller. And here you have another disturbance acting on the secondary process, which the transfer function gp2, and we take a feedback, and it's taken care of. This disturbance d2 is taken care by gc2, and this is the transfer function of gc2. And most of the time, this gc2 can be, even it can be a simple proportional control. We go in for pi controllers at the best, but it can be a simple proportional controller, because if at all there is some offset left, a little bit of it, that will be taken care by the primary. But the main thing is that the most of the error should be removed immediately, and we know that the proportional controls are very good at immediately acting upon it. So this gc2 can be a simple proportional controller, or at the best you can add a little bit of integral, not a very high one, because you don't want any overshoots or instabilities over there. So this is the philosophy by which we go in for the secondary loop, or you can say the slave loop acting upon this. So you will have a separate dynamics for this inner loop, and a separate dynamics for this combined outer and inner loop. So let us see this one by one in a very simple manner. As far as the secondary loop is concerned, as you can see, the characteristic equation for the secondary loop will become 1 plus gc2 gp2 is equal to 0. As you can see, it's very simple to have a visualization of this process. So this is equal to 0. This determines the stability of the inner loop. So first of all, we have to make very sure that the secondary loop does not becomes unstable. We have to take care of the secondary loop first. Always remember, we have to take care of the secondary loop. Even while tuning, I will be repeating this thing once again, that we first tune the inner loop. We have to take care of the inner loop. Once the inner loop is taken care of, then we will go in for the outer, or you can say the master loop, which is over here as such. So the primary loop, the overall open loop, mind the word open loop, this is the open loop. Open loop transfer function is that this becomes the overall secondary loop. This and this take a feedback, you know, this becomes gc2 gp2 1 plus gc. Simple feedback, gc2 gp2, there is nothing big in this. So this multiplied by gc1 multiplied by gp1, so this becomes the overall open loop transfer function of primary. So you can see you have a gc. Otherwise, once this gc was not there, in that case and this GC2 was not there. In that case, the overall primary was simply GC1 into GP2 into GP1, because this was not there. Suppose this is not there, secondary loop is not there, in that case you will simply have GC1 into GP2 into GP1. But now, because of the presence of GC1 with the feedback over here, so you have this term instead of, this is an additional term which is coming over here along with GP2. So this is what is happening, and that's going to affect the overall dynamics of the system. But the stability of the inner loop is determined by this. What about the stability of the outer loop? Well, if this is the open loop transfer function, you can always add 1 plus is equal to 0 kind of thing, as we did over here, and we will be there with the characteristic equation of the overall system, as we'll be seeing in the next slide. What the modified equivalent thing is, that instead of having simple GP2, you have GC2 GP2 over 1 plus GC2 GP2. But mind you, not only has this been affected, but the disturbance acting is also affected by this presence of GC2, which is going to attenuate this disturbance by a big factor as such. So this is what we want this to be there, to reduce the value of disturbance acting upon this final control over here. So this is how the dynamics of this will be concerned, and this into this into this given by the feedback by 1. So the characteristic equation for the overall thing will also change and will now become as shown in the figure. So you can see over here, you have the same thing multiplied by GC1 multiplied by GP1, and then you have 1 plus, because it's a feedback, it's a unity feedback over here. This will become the denominator of the overall closed loop response, and once you put this denominator is equal to 0, this becomes the characteristic equation, and that is going to determine, you have to see that the overall stability will be determined by this characteristic equation. You all know about that the pole should be on the left, and what happens, the pole should be on the right. It should not happen like that. The pole should remain on the left, and that's how the things are going to remain stable. All those things I'm not going to repeat once again over here in the cascade control. Let's now try to summarize the things as we will be seeing in the next slide. The first thing which we see is that the two controllers of the cascade controller, they are normal PI or PID controllers, but what we see is that we normally use proportional controller. Once again, I'm just highlighting it. We normally use only proportional controller for the secondary loop. We can add a little bit of I, small integral action we may add, but we don't add much. We can afford little bit of offset, but we cannot afford overshoots. We cannot afford overshoots. You want the master to be in the final charge, but the slave has to be fast to quickly mitigate major part of error, even if it not the most of it. So any offset which is caused by P control in the secondary loop is not important, because anyway we have the final process to take care of. We are not interested in controlling the output of a secondary process. We are only interested in reducing the effect of disturbance of secondary on primary. If it is reduced by, let us say, 90% and 10% of offset still remains, it's good enough. It's very good enough as such. We can add a little bit of integral, but we avoid, because you don't want to introduce any. We don't want to make the dynamics unnecessarily of higher order and so on and so forth. Second thing is that, as I've been telling you, I'm just summarizing it, that the dynamics of secondary loop are faster than those of the primary loop. That's why the slave has to be faster than master. And this allows us to use higher gains because it's a faster one, the secondary controller, to regulate more effectively the effect of disturbance occurring in the secondary loop without endangering the stability of the system. Because it's faster, the dynamics are faster, we can have higher gains without disturbing the stability of the system. And once again, for the final time and the last time, I'm going to tell you that we first tune the secondary or the slave controller and then the master. This is the last comment on the cascade controls. I hope now you have understood most of the things which are related to the cascade control. You can go in for the higher studies on this sometimes later, but right now this is sufficient for you, the dynamics part, the example parts, and the concept part of cascade control as such. Friends, in case you have any queries related to the cascade control or otherwise, you are most welcome to contact me through WhatsApp or through Zoom or through learning management system, as LMS we call it, through telephones or whatsoever face-to-face interaction if it's possible. I thank you for being with me once again. I wish you a very safe stay and enjoy learning. Bye bye.